Friends, welcome to another episode of ProView. Today we have a special guest with us. Before that, let me welcome my co-host, Amit Rane.
Yes, Mohan sir. Again, welcome guys. Welcome back. And today's episode is very special episode, Mohan sir, right? I mean, we all have some fond memories with one this particular person. So, who is he?
Yes, of course, I had the privilege of traveling with him quite a number of times. Please welcome Mr. Shivang Mehta.
Welcome, Shivang sir.
Hi Mohan. Hi Amit.
Hi, sir.
Very
And
well.
thank you so much for joining, Shivang sir, from your busy schedule.
Thank you for hosting me. अभी तो क्या busy है? I mean, everyone is free right now.
It's a pleasure to have you on this.
Guys, for those who don't know who is Mr. Shivang Mehta is, Shivang sir is the author of a best-selling A Decade with Tigers and the author of Chasing Horizons, Learning from Africa, and Leopards and Shepherds of Jawai. Shivang sir has won many national and international awards in wildlife photography. Shivang Mehta has done many hats in his long career journey, including that of a journalist and a PR professional, and which is again a new thing to me. Uh, his love for wildlife and nature led him to begin his on-field career in Sal Forest of Kumaon 15 years ago. Shivang Mehta is the founder and managing director of Nature Wanderers, India's premier wildlife photo tour organization. Having conducted over 1,000 wildlife photography workshops and tours, along with many unique wildlife events, and mentoring over 1,000 amateurs and professional wildlife photographers in India. Shivang is specialized in photographing rare species and camera trap technology. Shivang is also a Canon EOS ambassador, a Columbia athlete, and has been published in numerous national and international publications. So this is all about Shivang sir. And before any further delay, guys, I mean, let us know more about Shivang sir and his journey. So Shivang sir, how this journey has started at 15 years ago? Exactly what has happened? And can you talk about your childhood? I mean, where you are born and brought up?
Thank you Amit. I mean, I'm not very used to listening long introductions like this about me. Thank you for that. So yeah, I mean, so I'm quite a mixed breed kind of a person. You know, I'm a Gujarati, but I don't know how to speak Gujarati. So all people out there from Gujarat, you know, a lot of people who know me, they know this fact about me, all wildlife photographers based in Gujarat, that I cannot speak Gujarati because I've never stayed in Gujarat.
Okay.
I was born in Kolkata, and most of my schooling was done in Delhi and in Jaipur. Yeah. So yeah, that's how most of my most of my education days were there in these two cities, and I did my college from Delhi University. So I was a very studious child actually. I used to study a lot, and for the longest years, my main intention was to get the best grades, which got me to the best college in India. I did my college from Sri Ram College of Commerce in Delhi University, which is considered to be the best college. And my background was in economics. I did my honors from there.
Oh, wow.
But this is the first time I'm revealing this thing that I was, as soon as I graduated, as soon as I passed out from school and went to college, uh, my interest in studies went down, and I think one of the main reasons was, it was a very stupid reason, because I used to stay in Faridabad, and my college was in North Campus in Delhi University.
Oh,
Me commuting from Faridabad to North Campus was a major task. पहले सुबह 6 बजे उठने का है.
right.
Take a train, get down somewhere. Then you take a bus, So it used to take me around 2 hours to go to college, and
Oh,
2.5 hours to come back from college. So it was a major task for me. So somehow, I managed for the first couple of years, but I think by the third year of my college, I decided that okay, fine, I'll manage the education part, but I will also start working. So I started working at that very young age, and I always had a flair for writing and all. So I started working as a journalist. So yeah, that's about the first uh, 20 years of my life.
वो बोलते हैं ना, वो बग पकड़ लिया, वो कीड़ा पकड़ लिया फोटोग्राफी का, वो एग्जैक्टली कहाँ पे चालू हुआ सर?
Um, so for me, if we talk about wildlife photography,
Mhm.
right, they're actually they're two separate words. Wildlife and photography. That's how those two words join together to make this word called wildlife photography. So for me, wildlife always comes first, and photography is just a kind of a byproduct, right? So it started like that, and it still remains like that. So I got into wildlife because of my love for outdoors and adventure, right? And at that young age when I was still studying, I was in college and all that. Started that time, this river rafting and all was a big craze, and those things had just started in India. So I used to make many trips to places like Rishikesh and all for rafting, and I just enjoyed being being in the field with nature. Um, so yeah, that's how the nature connection started, and then um, I went to Corbett just as a tourist.
Okay.
I saw my first tiger. Just as
Oh,
a tourist.
ये कौन से साल में देखा था फर्स्ट टाइगर? Which year?
So this was somewhere around 2002 2003.
Okay, great.
So I saw my first tiger just as a tourist, and I just had a film camera with me that time, and वो मैंने फोटो वोटो भी नहीं लिया because I was too dazed and busy seeing the tiger. Right? In fact, I still remember my guide. He snatched the camera from my hand
Mhm.
in order to take a shot. I didn't mind when the day began because I was too busy seeing the tiger. And so that that 1 minute of a tiger sighting. Mohan now goes to Corbett, so you relate to it. I saw my first tiger of my life on Ransing Road in Corbett.
Oh, okay.
It used to be a very active road from a tiger point of view. So that 1 minute of a tiger sighting, it actually changed a lot of things in my life. And I'd actually read Jim Corbett books earlier, but I got hold of those books again and I started reading it again and again. Um, and somehow I was just hooked onto it and I started visiting Corbett regularly. Then I had the opportunity within a few years to work with a camp in Corbett, from where I started training myself as a naturalist.
Mhm.
And I mean, I think in my life, things have gone in a very unplanned manner. Actually,
Yeah, Shivang sir,
I
what
don't know how things have shaped up.
Yes.
Yeah, my life, as I've listened to a lot of photographers, a lot of wildlife photographers, and so for me, there was no kind of a inheritance in terms of neither wildlife nor photography. No one from my family has any kind of an inclination towards both these aspects, right? Uh, but yeah, I uh, I do have a inheritance when it comes to writing. My grandfather, he used to write. My mother writes a bit. so I guess that was something which I had in the corner of my mind. And after my education,
Mhm.
the first field of work I was into journalism and PR.
Right.
I had the good fortune of working with some good companies like Bharti and handling uh, PR and media relations for companies like Google.
Okay.
So, uh, so yeah, that job profile, it made me travel to a lot of countries at a very young age. And whenever I was there in a country where there is some kind of a wildlife hook or a nature hook, I used to make sure that I explore that. You know. So that particular image out there, which you see towards the left,
Yeah.
that was my first trip to Africa many years.
Wow. Okay.
And at that age, I made it a point to visit the Cape of Good Hope. I saw my first baboons out there. So yeah, that was quite interesting. So so that's how things started. But this part of my journey, uh, I always feel that it becomes very relevant for what I do in today's time because during the course of this entire interaction we are having, you will know why it is very important. That's how I was bitten by the outdoor bug. Those were some of the river rafting
This is
trips.
in Rishikesh, right?
This is in Rishikesh. I mean,
Sir, आपने कौन से लेवल के रैपिड्स करे during those days?
yeah, I've done
Levels होते हैं, right? Rapids के वहाँ पे level 1, 2, 3, 4 and all stuff.
I've done all kinds of levels.
But nowadays there are a lot of restrictions on that. आप इसके ऊपर जा
Oh,
नहीं सकते and all this stuff.
I mean, I would really like to go there again. काफी time हो गया. It's been years and years I've not visited Rishikesh, but yeah, I guess I came to know that there are some restrictions now.
Yeah, now that.
So I really used to enjoy, the river life out there, rafting with my friends, and so there was this strong nature connect which I feel happened during that particular period. Uh, I heard my first Chital alarm call also.
Oh.
I really remember that. And after that, Kumau happened in my life.
Oh.
That actually changed the entire, perspective of my life. Changed my entire approach to the way I saw nature. Uh, I visited Corbett as a normal tourist all those years back, and I saw my first tiger. I I was quite, uh, of course, I was elated, but I was quite intrigued with this entire thing about tiger tracking and things like that. So, I just refreshed all my memories pertaining to Corbett, all those books which I had read. And then, fortunately, I had the time as well as the opportunity to work with a campsite in the outskirts of Corbett.
Mm-hmm.
And those were the kind of views I used to get up to. I mean, that's the Kosi River, and I think this image is around nearly 14, 15 years old. That's the Kosi River, just at the backyard. Uh, you know, these were the kind of things I used to get up to early in the morning. So I had that good fortune of observing nature from a very close quarter, and you know, uh, that interaction with various elements of the natural world. So when I started my work there, I mean, when I started training myself as a naturalist in Corbett, for me, tiger just became a very small part of that entire ecosystem. For me, just staying on the field, uh, you know, uh, getting up to views like this on a daily basis, that was more important. Uh, Tiger Jan देखा नहीं देखा उसका, I never used to be bad about that. So, and then our camp location was very active in terms of birds. So actually started maintaining a logbook that time.
Okay.
And I was recording species of birds, birds which I have seen, birds which I have photographed.
Mhm.
Uh, so there were a lot of birds which were there along the campsite, and in the course of years, there were around 250 species of birds which I had recorded in
Wow. From that single location.
from that single location. Yeah,
Wow.
there was a vulture nesting site as well. So it was very interesting. I think these were probably the best days of my.
आपका ये साइड किसी को नहीं पता है सर. Everyone knows you for your tiger work, but this is incredible.
No, yeah, I know my birds well. So,
Awesome.
so yeah, so that's what. And that time there was a lot of freedom to move around in Corbett.
Mhm.
That's the Sitabani forest. We used to go there a lot for birding and all, and slowly, you know, a lot of guests who were coming to Corbett, people who were coming to a camp. I got into this entire thing about guiding and all. So I used to enjoy that. In fact, during this particular period and phase, uh, my mother was, she was quite surprised that ये इसको इतना पढ़ाया लिखाया है, best college and all. अभी ये क्या कर रहा है? So, um, so most of my cousins and all. I'm the single child, so most of my cousins they were already well placed, fairly well placed in the corporate lives. They had started working, and सब बहुत बुद्धिमान लोग हैं. किसी ने IIM से कुछ किया, किसी ने IIT से कुछ किया. So they were all fairly well placed. So I guess my mother had that kind of a complex that अभी इसके बारे में if someone asks me, what do I respond to that? So when she had asked me, what are you doing with your life? And what should I tell people? हमसे कोई पूछे कि तुम क्या कर, तो I said कि यार आप ये बता दीजिए कि मैं कॉर्बेट में गाइड. That is the obvious thing which I thought, because I was very honest that ये आप बता सकते. So she was, I guess she had that kind of a complex that time. So I remember someone would have called her that, oh, what is Shivang doing nowadays?
Mhm.
So her response was that, वो कॉर्बेट में डायरेक्टर. When I came to know, then I actually understood the psychology also, that maybe my cousins and all, they're all positioned in that kind of a level that कोई director है or something like that. Director word use करना, was a kind of a prestigious thing for her. But I wish my Corbett में director होता. You guys would have been very happy.
No, but to be very frank, we are very proud what you are today. I mean, that itself is a big achievement, sir, for us. I mean, you are very inspiring. I mean, I know you. I never worked with you in field as such, but it's always a dream. Someday, एक दिन आपके साथ में गाड़ी में बैठ के आपसे सीखना है बहुत कुछ. I mean, this is how you inspire. Not only me. I mean, thousands of photographers pan India. So amazing, sir. That's an amazing feat, I would say.
Shivang, which is your first camera?
My first camera, it used to be a Kodak film camera, which I don't remember. From there, I migrated to a Sony a digital camera, which had some decent amount of zoom to document some bird species around me. And then I got on to Canon. So that what you see right now in front of you, that's I think it's a 400D Canon with a Sigma lens.
Okay.
300 Sigma lens, and so yeah. I mean that's my first DSLR. There were a lot of things which I used to see around myself in terms of birds, like green magpie. Then I upgraded some of the equipments which I had, moved on to 100-400 lens. And of course, the odd park visits. It was not that I was going to the park quite regularly.
Okay.
I was enjoying my life outside the park, and because that on-foot freedom is something which I till date I enjoy that. You know, if I get the freedom to walk on foot, then I feel that my performance as a photographer and as an observer that increases.
Right.
In a vehicle, you are confined. And it's driving at a particular speed, uh, and there are other vehicles around you as well. So I think from that particular period only, I was very intimidated with the presence of people as well as vehicles and other people around me. So, so yeah, the odd park visits they used to yield in elephant sightings. It was a very old image. I think 15, 16-year-old image from Dikala in Corbett. That, in fact, is the first proper shot of a Corbett tiger.
Oh, okay.
Which, it was taken just opposite Samba Road and from an elephant's back. And then, I had the good fortune of actually working with some good photographers during that time. And from there, you can say my photographic training started. And I by that time I think I was associated with Canon also.
Okay.
And, so I started getting hold of some Canon gears in the form of prime lenses. So that's my first prime lens. So 500 mm f4, which I used for at least 6 to 7 years. So this again in the outskirts of Corbett. I was just documenting species earlier with a low-end equipment gear, and now with a prime lens.
Right.
So of course, when you have good technology in your hands, your images start looking better. So and of course, when you have access to a location like Corbett where you are spending most of your time, you will end up witnessing moments like these. Elephants taking mud baths. I started venturing out from Corbett. I think I made my first field visits to Ranthambore, Bandhavgarh and all around 15 years back. So the more you venture out with your gear, you are bound to get moments like these. So I was enjoying that period. I mean, that was a very nice honeymoon period in my photography.
Shivanga, let me ask you something. Do you still prefer to shoot at in manual mode?
I've been shooting in manual mode
You still do that?
under my first DSLR, and I'm still doing that.
Wow.
You're still because I had that experience once you took my camera and you changed it to manual mode, and there's a red panda in front. I didn't realize that you had changed my mode, and then I was, what has happened to my camera? Remember that?
I somehow, I've always been very confident about my camera when it is in manual because everything is in my control.
Right.
And though the camera technology has evolved quite a bit, and the machines have become smarter, but I still think that I'm a bit more smarter than the machine. So so after a lot of years, I started thinking about these questions. That okay, I've upgraded my gear. I've got better gear to use now. But what am I chasing as a photographer? Earlier, I was using lenses like 7300 and all those things. Now there's a prime lens. Of course, your sharpness increases. So was I chasing sharpness? How many sharp images can I make? Okay, the other part was natural history moments, nice moments in the field. Is wildlife photography all about natural history moments? Because if I'm visiting visiting the park, for example, for say uh, 25 days or 20 days in a month, uh, I may be blessed with some kind of a natural history moment once or twice, right? So, ठीक है, those one or two moments which I get from a natural history point of view, it makes me happy and pleased that I did something. But then I started questioning myself. इसमें मैंने क्या किया? I didn't do anything. Whatever happened, it happened in front of me. Canon as a company, they are making good equipments. There's a good prime lens. So I'm just the facilitator to document that thing which is happening in front of me. Right? So, and the other part was documentation. Like that was something which I was doing ever since the start. So documenting birds, documenting this, documenting that. Irrespective of the kind of gear you are using, it's just getting that document. So my question to myself was that is wildlife photography about these three elements? Because uh, these are things which I was doing on a day in, day out basis. And though I was really enjoying my field journeys, but I was not enjoying my photographic journey. A lot of times I just wanted to keep my camera down and just watch things because I felt that अरे ये तो टाइगर यहीं बैठा है वो पिछले महीने भी देखा था मैंने ऐसे वो सेम फोटो आएगा क्या करना so that kind of a thing. So for me things were becoming very mundane when it comes to photography. So essentially my wildlife learning curve was going up. Month after month my wildlife learning curve was going up because and it is still going up. Every time I learn something new about the natural world, it is such a vast sphere that it's very difficult for someone to say that, oh, I know everything about the natural world. But my photographic learning curve was becoming very constant. There was no kind of a growth which I felt was happening. And that was something which had started bothering me. And it made me feel as a photographer whether I'd made a right choice by choosing this field as my area of work because I enjoy that. But whether it was whether it was a good choice to have this camera in my hand and continue my photographic journey or not. So I had actually started pondering over those questions that would it be a good thing to you know further intensify uh, my naturalist training and become a better naturalist, or probably uh, go in the research line of wildlife or something like that. Because what am I doing with this camera? It's just a bulky piece of equipment, and it is not giving me any kind of a satisfaction. So those realizations, it led to some transformations. Of course, you can see the transformation. There's no hair. So the questions were, what is photography? What can pull me out of this boredom, photographic boredom which I'm facing? And what will keep me going as a photographer? So, when we talk about wildlife photography or any kind of photography, I always say these things that there are two elements. One is the science element of photography, because at the end of the day, it's a machine. There's a science which is attached to it. So the scientific element of photography, in terms of the technicalities, in terms of how the camera works, those are things which can be understood. And if you are regularly using the camera, there are tons of material. There's tons of material also which is available on the web, which can help you understanding the science element of photography.
शिवांग सर, एक छोटा सा क्वेश्चन है बिफोर यू एक्चुअली गो अहेड. आपने बहुत लोगों को मेंटर किया है. यू हैव बीन अ टीचर फॉर सो मेनी फोटोग्राफर्स. कैन यू नेम सम ऑफ योर मेंटर्स जिनको आपने देखा, उनसे सीखा?
So yeah, in my journey in Corbett, when I was working, I had the very good fortune to interact and work with people like Mr. Nanak Dhingra,
Okay.
Mr. Jagdeep Rajput, and there was a time when those were only two people with big lenses I used to see around me. So, um, a lot of those interactions helped a lot. And at a very early stage, I was highly influenced with two photographers who till date have uh, resulted in changing my approach to seeing nature in a different way. So those two people were Art Wolf and Ganesh Shankar.
Yeah, amazing names again. Yeah, believe me, we all are fans. Ganesh sir, shout out to you. I'm a big fan of yours. And similarly, Artful. Yeah, amazing,
Yeah.
amazing photographer.
So I guess all these kind of uh, all these emotions which I am stating right now, those were things which I did discuss with Ganesh as well at some stage, and he knows about it when I was at a stage where I didn't want to shoot, and uh, I just started disliking this entire camera gear and everything like that because for me it was just a burden. It was just an interruption that if I'm seeing something in front of me, अरे इसका फोटो भी खींचना पड़ेगा. So, so these are the three questions which I was constantly asking myself.
Okay.
And I got my answers also. And the answer was simple. Photography is it's a form of art, and when you talk about art, it means that one has to create something.
True.
For create, you need creativity. You need to develop a creative vision. And of course, if you have a mix of that, everything boils down, and you have that sense of satisfaction that even on a day where nothing concrete has happened on the field in terms of documentation, in terms of natural history, you can still come out with a work of art.
True.
And that particular work of art, that can give you satisfaction on that particular day, that you have done something good for that particular day. So, so this entire thing, it just gradually changed my approach to photography, and um, from from merely shooting images, I was actually thinking about creativity and relating it to the art of seeing. So, if you talk about the art of seeing, then what essentially is the art of seeing? A lot of people, when they ask me this question, and I've thought about it deeply, that the human body also works like a camera.
True.
You're there in a gypsy, you're roaming around, and suddenly you ask your driver, "Gadi rokna, gadi rokna." Why do you do that? You actually do that because your soul is like the sensor. Your soul has sensed something, and that's why you have stopped that vehicle. Your eye is like a lens which will help you to uh, uh, capture whatever your soul has sensed, and your brain is already processing that image. So even before you have picked up your camera, there's an image which has been created somewhere in the world, right? Your camera then just becomes a medium to fulfill this entire loop and create that particular image.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, very well said, sir. Very, very thoughtful, very, very meaningful. When I actually saw this image for the first time, actually I glued to this image for a couple of minutes, and then I realized it's some sand dune, and the way you created that with that form of light and that underexposed thing, those tones, uh, sheer brilliance. And as you said correctly, I mean, your mind actually, before you actually take a picture with your camera, your mind actually started processing that image. If you spend a lot of time in the field, if you start understanding the light, if you start understanding that nature form, absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
started strongly believing in this entire process, and everything just happens in a minuscule of a second, you know. And um, that that for me was the beauty of photography,
Sure.
and that you are able to see something in front of you and go through this entire flowchart in just a fraction of a second, probably 1/250th of a second or something. So, so yeah, I mean that these particular realizations,
Yeah.
it changed my entire approach to photography, and these were certain things which I wanted to bring into my work. One is light, understanding and respecting light, uh, coming up with unique point of views, and which is all about compositions and all, and having an aesthetic taste. uh, how to develop that aesthetic taste is one very good way is to draw inspiration from other photographers, and the idea is not to replicate that work, but at least you will know what is the meaning of aesthetics uh, when you see the work of other photographers, and those photographers who know the meaning of aesthetics.
Right. Sir,
So
ये कहाँ का है ये स्केप particular?
this is, I think, Desert National Park.
Okay, this is GMP. Beautiful, beautiful.
So, that this was the phase from where, I mean, those were the days from where I started my new journey in photography. And in that new journey, everything for me was interesting. Right from a dancing peacock,
Beautiful.
which I would have seen and photographed 10,000 times. So everything I was seeing in front of me, my endeavor was that, how can I think and how can I see this particular subject from a different perspective. And even the elephants in Corbett,
Wow.
they started becoming very interesting, though I'd seen these kind of visuals right from the early days of my life, and all the terrains of Corbett, everything was just very appealing. It was just very refreshing just to see Corbett from uh, in a new light.
Beautiful.
Over the years, in the past decade or so, try to I've tried to do a lot of black and white stuff.
Mhm.
The thing that a lot of people say that I've lost color in my life, but but I like doing black and white photography because I guess nature looks beautiful even when it is devoid of colors.
Very well said. Wow.
So so yeah, I mean, even a naturalistic moment, if it is, if you're perceiving it from a creative point of view, that looks um, much more visually appealing as compared to just a normal image of these two peacocks fighting.
Right.
So each and every small thing in the natural world was just very appealing to me.
It is a tree climbing crab.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sir, beautiful wide angle shot. I mean, what's your favorite lens for taking this kind of wide angle shots?
So normally when I'm on game drives and wildlife safaris, I always have a 24-70 with me because
Okay.
24-70 is a 24 mm is a lens which can define your big subjects properly when they're closer to you.
Right.
And I have a whole range of wide angle lenses because I do a lot of camera trapping work as well. So
Yeah.
depending on the size of the subject, and the size of the trail where I'm working in,
Mhm.
I use a kind of wide angle lens. But yeah, I normally on a typical camera trapping assignment, I'm equipped from 15 mm to 24 mm at various focal lengths.
Okay. Mohan sir, when did you meet Shivang sir first?
Shivang actually came down to Bangalore, I
Uh-huh.
think way back in 2014, just meet me and we chatted for some time, right? Shivang, it's 2014, right?
The first time we met, you came to Corbett with Prakash. That's the first time we met. We met at
Ah, yes, yes.
Pandit sir.
Again, Dhritiman also was there.
Yeah, Dhruti was also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when actually I know Shivang sir for a very long time because of the INW and on the social media. But when I met him for the first time in Ranthambore, okay, Shivang sir शायद नहीं recollect कर पाएंगे. He was playing with a trill chip lens, and I asked Akshay was sitting next to me. अरे ये Shivang sir trill chip lens से क्या shoot करे? It was Noor sitting in the water hole and आप वो trill chip में experiment कर रहे थे. You remember that Safari? You are playing with it. You said Amit, I'm going to play, and I asked a couple of questions to you. You said, "यार मैं थोड़ा experiment कर रहा हूँ ये trill chip वाला." So that's why I know him. He's always keen on doing some experimentation with different focal lengths. I mean, that's the beauty of you.
Yeah, I guess the idea of photography is experimentation.
Yeah.
And I guess if a tiger is sitting at a water hole, हिंदुस्तान के हर एक जंगल में एक टाइगर वाटर होल पे रोज बैठता है.
True.
सभी टाइगर्स को if you shoot with a long lens, फोटो तो एक ही आएगा.
Yeah.
So it is the onus is on us, the photographers, that how we can depict that particular tiger sitting in that water hole in a unique point, from a unique perspective, either by the use of technology or the use of our creativity.
Yeah.
So that's my constant endeavor. So yeah, I mean, things like these I would have never imagined that around 12, 13 years back, I would take these kind of shots. I would have probably kept my camera down and waited. The leopard is in bushes. I'll wait for it to come out of the bushes. But for me, suddenly these things have started getting very interesting and intriguing. That there is an image in everything. At this juncture, I'd also like to share one thing, that a lot of my photography is also influenced by my journalistic career.
Okay.
Why? Because in my first job, many years back, when I had just started working in a magazine as a kind of a junior correspondent or whatever. That time, the online world had just started coming into its being, and the magazine used to publish all these articles, which they were already going in print, but the attempt was that we should also do a trimmed down online version. So for the trimmed down online version, my task was just to give the headline.
Okay.
So day after day, every day my work used to be read at least 30 to 40 articles. And those articles used to be at least 1,000 words. Converting those 1,000-word articles into 200-word articles and give the headline for that.
Oh, that's the most of a job.
But I used to like that.
Okay.
So whenever I see something on the field, the first thing which comes to my mind is the title of that particular image which I'm trying to create.
Right.
So when I have that title in my mind, it becomes easier for me to visualize that particular image and, compose it or treat it in that particular fashion. Right. So, for example, this is a very recent image. It's just a 10-day-old image from Galana.
Okay.
So when I saw this in late evening, when I saw this leopard, for the first 10 seconds, I didn't pick up my camera, 20 seconds or something. But then suddenly, there was some spark in the corner of my brain which said that the forest also has eyes. So that forced me to pick up the camera just to, give some kind of context to this particular phrase. And so in a lot of images which I do, I would say 60 to 70% of the images which I do, there is some kind of वो होता है ना बचपन में किसी से बहुत काम करवाया होगा किसी तरीके that thing is ingrained in my head that okay, if there's a title, then the image has to be clear.
Yes.
So this is a perfect example.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the journey of a nature photographer, I mean, once you start seeing things from an art point of view, then after a certain stage, technology also comes into play. And I'm very happy with experimentation in technology, trying various things, whether the kind of equipments I'm using, because the entire idea and motive is to create a different point of view.
Right.
So that's how I started experimenting with remote shooting, and I procured remote controlled vehicles. To shoot some species in Africa.
Sir, ये जो lens लगा है on the camera, which lens is this?
This is an 1855 lens because this was the first time I tried experimenting with a remote controlled vehicle, so I didn't want to risk expensive gears and all.
Right.
Then slowly, this is also a learning stage. Once you do it, then you start understanding the animal behavior. You know what to do, what not to do, and how to ensure that your gear is also protected and you get the desired image also.
Right.
Do you find any difficulty in carrying this with you when you go to Africa or any
Yes.
part?
I mean, as of now, the products which are available in the market, they are quite bulky, and there's a huge amount of inventory management you have to do in order to just take this to Nairobi and then deploy it on the field. So this is in fact a beetle cam, which is being manufactured by Burrard Lucas. And now there are some indigenous Indian products also which are much cheaper. The one which Anjani does, that is quite cheaper. It's actually 1/4 the cost of this particular machine. So, and it's actually better. I've used that also. In fact, this image has been taken using the Indian product. So it's a different lens altogether. It's a 14 mm 2.8. By this time, I was much more confident on how to use it. How to ensure that you get the image without harming the equipment much. So yeah, it's all a part of the learning curve on how to use remote technology.
Technical question, Shivang sir. When you actually shoot with this remote cameras, तो आपको zoom के कोई control नहीं होता, right? Whatever lens you put in, it will be a fixed zoom, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, if you see this image, this particular entire series, some of the images are a part of my book, Chasing Horizons. Everything has been taken with a 14 2.8 fixed lens.
The fixed lens, 14 2.8 is now go-to lens for all your camera trap images or wide angle shot.
I've also guided people into people who have come with me to places in Africa, who have come with their own remote vehicles and all. and they came with lenses like 18 mm, 24. So, so with experience, I've come to realize the fact that the choice of glass on a buggy, on a remote vehicle, needs to be different from what you are putting in a camera trap.
Okay.
Right? Because when you're using a glass in this remote control vehicle, the idea is to create a very, a kind of perspective which looks very odd. Right? So 24 mm, for 24, I don't think if you just visualize this on a 24 mm, from a 24 mm field of view, it would not give the same impact.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's why that question is coming from,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, it was quite a risk on how deploying a 14 mm lens on that vehicle, because it's an expensive piece of glass, and it didn't belong to me. It belonged to Canon. I had to return it as well. So, but yeah, I took the risk, and it worked out. And I guess at the end of the day, there is a certain amount of risk which you have to take.
Sir, one more technical question. The focusing on the lens, do you put it on manual focus, you fix it, or you operate from your remote control?
See, some of the buggies which are Anjani's buggy, for example, which has been taken using his buggy. There is a focusing mechanism. You can.
Okay.
But because I come from a camera trapping lineage, so I have a habit of switching off my autofocus and just waiting for the right moment where I know that the depth of field would be perfect, and then to fire the shot.
Okay.
Because I normally refrain from using autofocus, because at that critical moment, your camera may just be hunting for focus.
Right.
So I just use the camera, use my hand like this, just calculate mentally that, if the subject is going to be this far away from the camera, that's when I'll fire the shot. So yeah, I mean, the autofocus techniques are available. It's all up to you whether you want to use it or not.
Sure. Thank you.
DSLR camera trapping. This is something which I felt this was something which was a major advancement and addition to my armory as a photography, because there are a lot of species, because I have this special affiliation towards cats of all sizes, whether big or small. So, DSLR camera trapping, it helped me to reach those kind of species in a very effective manner. And again, this has been a never-ending learning process for me. I mean, as we talk, I'm just preparing for another, camera trapping project which I have to start from next month. And for the past 30 days, I've just been, rigging all kind of gears just to prepare myself for that. So yeah, I mean, this is something which is very engaging, and I love this form of photography, because a lot of people actually, I keep on reading debates around DSLR camera trapping, that अभी इसमें photographer ने क्या किया, वो camera लगा के चला गया. I also say, my lot of times my camera works when I'm sleeping. So, but in order to make that camera work when you're sleeping, there is a lot of planning which is required. There's a lot of pre-visualization which is required.
True.
And I love that entire process. That one thing goes wrong in that planning stage, and that one night is gone. So for me, every night is important. So yeah, I mean, this is something which I've been doing, and I enjoy doing that. And the results are nice whenever you get it.
Oh.
It is like a drop of water coming out from a tap which you have closed and still not closed. So probably in 10-15 days, you will just get 4 or 5 images. But a lot of those images you get, they're always very interesting and satisfactory.
Absolutely.
And the more amount of creativity you show in the field when it comes to camera trapping, the better it is. So, there's a couple of fishing cats in Dudhwa National Park, and that was a project which I did for the UP government around 5 years back now.
Okay.
So then comes the second, the next part of my journey as a photographer because of my journalistic background, and that zeal to come out with, come out with images which tell stories. So I always wanted to do that, but my travel schedule was such that I was I was always hunting for individual images, and then came this tigress in my life. That's a lot of people would know, Mohan, and you also, you would have photographed this tigress in Bandhavgarh. That's the one-eyed tigress in Bandhavgarh called Kanpati. And later on, she was called Vijaya. So when I saw this particular tigress in 2011, for me, she was a very interesting character. A lot of photographers refused to photograph this tigress. अरे इसका तो एक आंख खराब है, इसका बस एक flank का photo खींचने लायक. So I used to feel bad also that अरे यार तुम तो सामने टाइगर बैठा हुआ है, उसमें भी इतना choices हैं, इसमें वैसे खींचना है. So, but from a story point of view, it was a very interesting character. That a big cat with just one eye, how she's controlling one of the main areas of Bandhavgarh.
Right.
And you just imagine, you just shut your one eye and see from one eye. So the world she's seeing, which is just half of the world that we are seeing or what other cats are seeing. So how she's managing to hunt, how she's managing to survive in that kind of a competitive landscape. So that was something which I was quite intrigued about. So for around 3 to 4 years, from 2011 or to 2014, I dedicated a considerable part of my life following this particular tigress in order to document what she's going through, and it was quite intriguing for me to see her, raising a litter. That was a very happy moment that she gave birth to cubs, and then it was interesting whether she would raise those cubs or not. So I chose, her as a subject, that this would be the subject. This is a perfect subject material for a book.
Okay.
There's a lot of books which have been done on tigers.
Yeah, so officially she is the inspiration behind all your publications now.
Yeah, definitely.
A story, yeah, amazing.
So I started following her journey, and I documented her first litter quite a bit. I spent nearly 200 days in Bandhavgarh in the 2011 to 2013 period just to be after her, and I documented her first litter, and then that first litter died. A couple of the cubs died, and one of them is still surviving. It's quite a popular type in Bandhavgarh right now. And then, I was stuck. I was like, I spent 2 years working on this, and what do I do now? And then suddenly there was a ray of hope again. This tigress gave birth to another litter. I again dedicated, probably half of a month in search of that litter. I got that. And then the park closed for the monsoons.
Mm-hmm.
That was in the month of June, and then the park closed. And then I thought that, okay, fine. There's still a ray of hope, and we can start again once the park opened. I remember it was in the August of 2014 that I received a call from Bandhavgarh that the mother has died, and some cubs are missing, and some one of them is dead. So, of course, I was very emotionally attached to this particular female, and that was another major lesson for me that if I'm if I have to be a storyteller, I need to reduce my emotional attachment with subjects because when you're emotionally attached to subjects, then there is a kind of a biasness where you put some blinders on, you don't listen to things, and there may be some complications later on mentally. So uh, so yeah, for for quite some time, I stopped visiting Bandhavgarh because there was so much of an emotional outburst. When it comes to her, uh, I cried a lot in Guinea when I heard about the news. It was for the first time, you know, leave apart the book project and all, but for me uh, it was something very different. So this was in 2014, and in 2015 I again started going to Bandhavgarh. I started following one more female and her cubs and all. And then suddenly, I just thought that, okay, um, I've done this kind of a similar work with a lot of other tigers across India. I've worked a lot in Ranthambore, that too on specific families, and I've done some considerable work in Corbett, of course, and Corbett is also. That's another interesting story because when it comes to Corbett tigers, I never followed Corbett tigers in my life. For me, Corbett tigers was something they used to just bump into Corbett tigers. So um, so I never had an image of a Corbett tiger in that river backdrop.
Okay.
Crossing the river, doing this, doing that. So I thought, okay, fine. Even after working for 15 years, I didn't have a proper image of a Corbett tiger around the river back.
Oh.
I thought, let me start a project, a book project, where I can, satisfy my writing hunger to come out with a book which documents the life of all these tigers. Because essentially, if you think about it, these are tigers uh, who have been the brand ambassadors of the country.
True, very true.
They have played a very instrumental role in placing Indian wildlife tourism on the global map.
Absolutely.
So that's when I started writing my book called Decade with Tigers.
Yes.
And a significant part of this book, and I think Mohan has been a witness to it, significant part of this book has been written on the banks of the Ramganga River.
Oh.
Why? Because I thought कि ये किताब में एक फोटो है नहीं कॉर्बेट का टाइगर का रिवर बैकड्रॉप.
Okay.
Let me station myself on the banks of the Ramganga River. I'll write this book also.
Mm-hmm.
And morning to evening, if I'll just stand on different parts of the Ramganga, I'll get that shot. So finally, over a period of 10, 12 days, I did manage to get the shot as well.
Oh, okay.
Part of the book. And I finished this book as well. Otherwise, hota nahi, with my kind of travel schedules and writing is a kind of a meditation. You can't you stop the recording or उसको crude terms में बोल दूँगा.
True.
So so yeah, I did this book. So I'll just play the trailer of this book.
Okay, so this is available on Amazon, right?
That's available on
Sure.
Amazon.
I'll just put the link in the description down below for this book, guys. Yep.
So for me, this entire exercise of coming out with this book, um, it was a very interesting thing because normally as photographers we take images and we are just running after a single image.
Right.
But when you're working on things like an exhibition or a book, you are essentially in the process of creating multiple images in a way that all those images they talk to each other. That's how a story is formed. And books for me, they are of two types. One is a profitable book where you're just flipping through images and it's like a Shadika album. Um, the other part is a book which has got a very strong narrative and which forces you to think about some particular subject or the kind of topic which you are discussing. So um, I love this entire exercise of coming out with a book. So this entire exercise, it just it was a it was a way for me to put on my hat as a journalist as well. Have some kind of whatever I used to do in my past life.
Mm-hmm.
Those are things which I could do in my current life as well, and come out with something which is meaningful for everyone. So that entire exercise, I started enjoying it. So that's
In fact, शिवांग सर, जो फर्स्ट चैप्टर है कनकटी वाला, वो देख के पता चलता है ना कि वो कनकटी का जो एंटायर आपने जो स्टडी किया था, दैट एंटायर हर लाइफ स्टोरी कितना इन्फ्लुएंस कर गया आपको. आई मीन वी कैन एक्चुअली रीड दैट फर्स्ट चैप्टर, वी कैन सी द एंटायर डॉक्यूमेंट्री यू हैव जस्ट पुट इट देयर.
Everyone who has read the book, everyone has said that the kind of emotions which are depicted in that first chapter, it doesn't carry forward in the forthcoming chapters. Because the forthcoming chapters are just additions to the major crux of the book, which was supposed to be the first chapter.
Right.
So both of it, it's like, for me, bookmaking is kind of making a film. You are just joining blocks on a whiteboard. I sit down, I just start joining blocks, and it's like solving a case or something. इसके कैसे one fact को दूसरे fact से relate करके किस तरीके से we can narrate a story.
True.
So yeah. So with that, came the second idea.
Mm-hmm.
So my African journey, it started somewhere around 2009, 2010, when I started visiting African national parks, especially places like Masai Mara. And initially, I also, as a lot of photographers would be, I was very excited to go to Kenya. For me, that was the mecca of wildlife, as it is popularly called. And that's how I was traversing through various parts of Kenya, that thinking that this is the mecca of wildlife. It was only later that I realized that why are we calling that particular continent the mecca of wildlife, whereas in our own country, when it comes to species diversity, habitat diversity, that continent nowhere stands in front of a country. There are 39 species of cats in the world. 16 of them are in India.
Wow.
10 of them are in Kenya.
Sure.
Right? Oh, sorry, 10 of them are in the African continent.
Okay.
वो इतना बड़ा continent है, ये इतना छोटा देश है. So just because we have been blessed by nature to have this kind of a unique diversity of habitats, ranging from cold desert forests, the Himalayan landscape, to mangroves, to grasslands, to sal forests, to rainforests, to swamps. That is the reason why this entire country is able to support this kind of a biodiversity.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that was actually the starting point of the next project which I worked on. And the idea was, but one thing which was true in my case was, as a photographer, I learned a lot when I went to Africa. Every year when I was spending those 40 to 50 days in Africa, there used to be something new in the learning curve. And I used to come back to India and replicate those things in India. Right from usage of light to slow shutter speeds.
Wow.
So those were things, because of photographic opportunities which were there in Kenya, it was easier for me to do these kind of things and then come back to India and make use of that 10 seconds of a tiger crossing a road, and having the heart to just pan off that tiger,
Yeah.
right? Deliberately, rather than an accidental motion blur.
True.
So, so those were things which really influenced me as a photographer when I was working in Africa. Because in India, because of the scarcity of scarcity of opportunities, we are always very conservative when it comes to a photography. अरे ये मिस हो गया तो पता नहीं कब मिलेगा. So, but there, it's you're just broadening your entire horizon. So I started replicating those things in India with my normal telephones. And that's how, we did this book called Chasing Horizons, Learnings from Africa. So if you see the cover is, it's actually a charcoal painting which has been designed by a local artist in Ranthambore. And it is an amalgamation of 4 big cats: the tiger, leopard, cheetah, and the lion.
Wow.
Right. So I'll just play the trailer for this.
And incidentally, that book is still there on my table. I just love that book.
Yeah. Beautiful. Like the cover page is so artistically done, sir. Very thoughtful.
So yeah, so every book, it's a very unique project, and it forces you to think how to present your story in a unique fashion. And uh, with that, I moved on to my third concept. I'd actually never been to Beda in Rajasthan. I actually went to Beda in Rajasthan in the year 2012 or 13, because Mrs. Beena Kak, who was the minister that time, she sent me to document Saras cranes in Beda. There were around 140 Saras cranes that time. And she wanted a documentation of that. So I went to Beda. And that time, since I had gone on a project, I never even bothered to see leopards and all. But then a couple of years back, um, I went to Beda just to document leopards in a certain way, and that's where I met Shatrunjay, who's a lodge owner, and he had a very interesting story pertaining to how leopards were coexisting with shepherds out there in Beda, and it was a very unique behavior of harmonious relationship between man and animal in a very remote village of Rajasthan. So both of us decided to document this entire thing, and along with my colleague Shatabdi, who was also a part of this project, Shatabdi Chakravarti, we decided to follow the journey of this female leopard who had coincidentally given birth to 4 cubs in this landscape, which I believe it was quite a rare phenomena that a leopardess had given birth to 4 cubs.
Okay.
So, so through her eyes, we tried to tell the story of Beda.
Okay.
What are the challenges she was facing in terms of human habitation, how she was living with humans, and how leopards were being rated as on a very high pedestal in that remote pocket of Rajasthan. Because as a country, that's why I find this country so fascinating, that whenever there's an element of religion, um, immediately the animal is given a lot of prominence. So, so even in Beda, just because of a religious significance, leopards were being given a lot of prominence by the local Rawari tribe out there. So all those things were very interesting for us, and it's a very interesting narrative in this particular project that we started working on. That's a traditional Rabari village out there where these are the shepherds of Beda. And last year, in 2019, we came out with this book called Leopards and Shepherds of Javai.
Beautiful. So right now, all 3 books are available on Amazon, right?
Yeah, all 3 books are available on Amazon. So, I mean, that's it. That's about my photographic journey. I've been the triest for species, cats, and cats of various sizes. That's a clouded leopard. I mean, that's probably one of the best photographic moments I've had in my wildlife career till now. So that has been, pushing me to travel to various parts of the globe just to document the natural world, irrespective of, species, irrespective of animals and humans. I mean, because for me, photography is all about light, and the moment there's a light falling on any subject, it's an image to be captured.
Shivang, have you ever ventured out into video making?
Yes. So I actually ventured into video making long time back, because in around 2005 or in 6, we actually did a film in Corbett National Park, which was for the Forest Department, uh, around tourism in Corbett, and that film also went on to become a part of the guide curriculum thing for the park authorities. So that was my first endeavor, and I've had the good fortune of working with some of India's good wildlife filmmakers, including Mr. Mike Pandey, Nalla Muthu, and I've learned a lot from them. I mean, every day in the field I've spent with them, whether it is with Mike or son Gautam, I've learned a lot from them. And so, yeah, I mean, that is something which I would like to do. And probably in the future, you'll see me doing that.
Shivang sir, in fact, a lot of, well, not many people know you are a fitness freak. I mean, how important is fitness when you actually choose wildlife as a career? Because I've been seeing your routine and all. So, what
Uh,
is your secret?
I guess it is really very important to have a good stamina and physique for doing a lot of projects which we are doing. Because if that is not the case, then there are a lot of things in the wild which you would not be able to do, and that becomes a kind of a limitation. So, um, though my body has also taken a lot of battering, but still there are a lot of things which I still want to do. For that, I need to be in proper shape for doing that.
Absolutely. Shivang sir, your favorite park, if I take a liberty to ask this question in India?
Well, I guess there may be a biasness, but there's a practical reason also behind that. That I don't feel that there's any. There are very few places in the world which can give you the photographic opportunities, the habitat, the landscape, the backgrounds, and the species which Corbett can offer.
Jim
Right?
Corbett is your favorite park.
Yeah, and I'm not being biased. I'm giving a practical, logical reason.
Yeah.
And which do you think is the most underrated park in India?
I in the past 4 or 5 years, I had the opportunity to work in Satpura, and I've been really impressed with the kind of work which can happen in Satpura. I've done some bit of camera trapping there in some of the private properties with good success in terms of leopards and all. In 2018 or 19, I don't remember, a couple of years back, I did a project around the rusty spotted cat in Satpura, because the buffer areas of Satpura give you the opportunities to do some night patrolling as well. So, which is great for nocturnal wildlife like civets and in fact, you know, if you work in a planned approach, we had actually identified an area where we used to get a rusty cat, and we actually followed that cat over a period of 10 days and had multiple sightings of the same individual in order to come out with a portfolio of images for that particular individual. And of course, the main park as well, the main national park is very, very good from a sloth bear and leopard point of view. And I guess I still feel that there's still a lot of photographic work which has to be done in Satpura.
Uh, I think you remember you, in fact, invited me to Satpura to do some work
Yeah,
there.
Yeah.
you should come. You should come. It's a wonderful place.
So one major thing I learned from this thing is uh, to be a wildlife photographer, first you should have a love for wildlife. Then only you can be a true wildlife photographer, right?
There are two separate words. One is wildlife and one is photography.
Yes.
So, till the time you know uh, people keep on considering them as two separate words, they're in a good zone.
So, a fantastic session, Shivang sir. It was a pleasure, I mean, knowing that treasure trove, and thank you for sharing so many things.
And
Guys, for all of us here, if you want to know more about Shivang Mehta and Nature Wanderers, I'm going to share the link in the description. So you can go and check his profile. You can check the company profile. And again, to reemphasize, he's an amazing mentor and you can learn a lot from him. So thank you once again, Shivang sir, for joining.
thank
Yeah.
you.
One more thing I would like to ask you, Shivang, what are your upcoming plans?
My upcoming plans are, there are certain book projects which I'm working on, because that is something which keeps me going. So hopefully, I mean, I work with a plan of doing at least one book in a year. So, uh, but I think the next project which I'm working, that's a bit tough. So if that doesn't happen, then there's a second backup book project which I'll probably launch in 2021. But I'm sure the next one is it's a very unique kind of a thing, and you all are going to love it, because even I'm very excited to see the kind of results which will come out. I'll be doing some bit of camera trapping in the outskirts of Corbett and all, and I'm hoping that by January things resolve and I start getting into the normal safari routine again.
And I would love to join you.
Definitely, it's been long since we have had our last safari together.
Yes, a long time. Thank you so much, Shivang, for this time of yours and your.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.